It's not a drill.
Yeah, it's right up here.
He's got him. Stand up.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Sidharth Kumar from ReviewMagic, and today we're going to be reviewing the movie Leave No Trace. So this movie is available on Netflix. It came out in 2018. It's an independent drama movie, close to an hour and 50 minutes. And to give you an insight of what this movie is all about, it's all about the relationship between a father and daughter. Father is a veteran who's suffering from PTSD. Daughter is 13-year-old, and they're living in the woods in a forest. That's where they lead their life, and one day an unseen event happens where the father and the son, they have to part their ways and live separately. So that's a high-level introduction of what this movie is all about. Now in case you're interested to know who is in the movie, of course we're going to cover that. So in the acting department, you're going to see Ben Foster, who goes by the name of Will. Now Ben Foster has his name in the movies Hell or High Water. He's also been in the movie The Survivor, which I thought was a phenomenal movie. You also have Thomasin McKenzie, who plays Tom. She plays Tom in the movie, and the daughter of Will. The movie has been directed by Deborah Granick, and she's the director of also Winter's Bone. Now to get into the plot of the movie, at a more deeper level, Will is a veteran, so he lives in the woods. He suffers from post-traumatic stress syndrome, and he's living with this 13-year-old daughter. He knows all the survival instincts of how do you live in a forest, how do you build a tent, how do you eat, and what he's doing is that's what his life is. He doesn't want to go back into city or urban life. He wants his solitude-ness, and he makes money by going to the veteran center. He gets some medicines and he sells it to homeless people. And what happens one day is that one of a hiker on one of the hills in Oregon, that's where they live, he finds his daughter, and this hiker goes and reports back to the police. The police comes and they chase both Will and Tom away. Social service gets involved because they want to rehabilitate both of them. They figure out this guy is a veteran. They have no trace of the daughter going ever to school, because all the training, the teaching that Will has provided to Tom is through by himself, his teachings, his the way he wants to help his daughter to understand the world. And so because of social service, what happens ultimately is that Will is granted a house at a remote ranch in Oregon. He's collecting these Christmas trees. He's trying to help the owner, but he still is not happy. One day he just leaves with Tom overnight because he doesn't want to go through all this paperwork and all. They find a truck driver who also is reluctant to take both of them to wherever Will has to go. But ultimately Will and Tom, they end up in Washington State in a forest, lonely, deserted area. It's raining. He builds a camp for them, and ultimately they venture out in the forest where they find a cabin. And this is the cabin where Will tells Tom that, hey, you stay here for this day. I'm going to come back. I'm going to figure out what's going on. Let me see, I can get some more supplies and so on. But he doesn't come back, and then Tom goes to search for him, and she finds Will, who's in a ditch. He's at an accident. There are some people that Tom asks for help, and then they help Will. There is a medic in the helping team, and Will is not able to walk because he's fallen in a ditch, so that recovery takes some time. And while this recovery is happening, Tom and Will, they're staying in a small community. There are not a lot of people, and Tom is enjoying this moment. I must tell you that even when they were in a ranch, Tom likes the feeling of connecting to people. I mean, this is not her journey, but slowly and slowly she's figuring things out. She's figuring out relationships. She's figuring out how people get to know each other. She's not ambitious. She's just small 13-year-old girl, but she likes to be in this thing. But ultimately, what happens is that Will forces Tom to leave that place too and go back into forest. But ultimately, Tom is reluctant, and she says she doesn't want to go. And then Will parts ways, and that's what the story is, Guy, the plot that I was talking about. So review the acting, how the acting unfolded. I talked about Ben being in Hell or High Water in The Survivor. He's a very intense actor. Every time I've seen Ben, he comes across a guy who's who's ready to, take a fight on you. So this is a kind of a person who doesn't need your pity, or empathy. He just will mind his own business. He does his things, and that's very well portrayed in his character. He's strong mentally, even physically. He's strong. He lives in the woods. He's been an army veteran, so he knows the survival techniques, and he also is very good at teaching his daughter, don't leave any trace. That's what the movie is. People should not be able to figure out that this is where they live. If they've crossed a trail, how do you cover that? So he gives a lot of this training to his daughter. At the same time, he's ensuring that she understands how to read, how to speak, and all those survival instincts are there. So Ben really embodies the character very well. He's intense. As far as Tom is concerned, the daughter Thomasin McKenzie, I felt that she was a very timid girl. What do you expect when you live in the woods? You don't want diamonds or expensive items. But as a girl, she has a very simple life. She's just following her dad's directions. She just goes wherever he asks her to go, and she's learning. She is obedient, she's disciplined, and it definitely was also a good chemistry you can see between Thomas and Ben as a father and daughter relationship. Daughter cares about her father. When the father did not come back home in the cabin, she was worried. At the same time, she also doesn't want anyone to know about where he is. They don't want to go to a hospital, when Ben fell into a ditch. So just tells you that, she's also secretive. She doesn't want people to know about their life. They mind their own business. So I thought the overall, as a 13-year-old, who has aspirations to do so many things in life, it was not in her, because she lives in the woods with her father, and, her life is just go out when the need is to get some supplies and stay there, study. And so from an acting department, I feel that they do, both Ben and Thomas do play a good role in justifying their characters. When it comes to direction, I think the main theme that Deborah Granick has to show is twofold. The one is the education part. A lot of veterans suffer from PTSD, and they don't really know how they can manage this. They have to come and talk to communities rather than staying in solitary mode, because that doesn't help anyone. So I feel that Deborah is trying to show that theme of how people should know about PTSD, acknowledge them. And also the second thing that Deborah is trying to tell you is, how do you find your purpose? What does a guy and a daughter have to do living in the woods? They're trying to find a purpose, and that purpose is that I don't bother you, you don't bother me. They're trying to just live on their own, survive, manage. But where does this end? That's what the Deborah is trying to show in this. That's the twofold motive, according to me. It's a very difficult life, guys. Just a guy with his daughter, 13-year-old. This is kind of unseen or unheard in Bollywood or some other kind of international cinema that I have seen so far. So this is not an easy story to depict. I think that how do you make ends meet, how the journey unfolds every day. I mean, you're always living in this apprehension as well. Hey, maybe there is going to be a wild animal that's going to come and hurt them. Maybe some hiker is going to come and is going to report that these two people are living in the forest, which is a government property, by the way. They should be in the social service. So you're also living with that kind of mindset every day. So that is also shown, those survival instincts. How do you leave no trace? So I feel that from a direction standpoint, Deborah, this movie definitely flows very well. There was not a moment where I felt that this is boring. I was very curious to see where does this ultimately end. And, I was watching it. So it's an interesting plot, guys. It's a very unheard of a story. So it's fresh, it's unique, and, it's deep, it's touching. You really want to understand, even without, Ben doesn't say a lot. And, you can read a lot in his expressions, in his attitude, and in his body language. The opposite is Tom. Tom likes to speak a lot. She asks a lot of questions. She questions status quo because she's a young girl. So I feel that the whole blending of the character, the way the story has unfolded, was actually beautiful in my opinion. I mean, it is sad, it is disappointing, but from the director's standpoint, this is a movie that you should appreciate. The relationship of father-daughter, educating on PTSD, because Ben doesn't really say that, but he's all about this is what his condition is, and also finding that purpose. When we talk about the cinematography of this movie, you will notice that the movie always has this dark blue shade, and a lot of thrill, dramatic movies have this kind of a shade. It's elusive. It kind of, evokes a lot of emotions. So I think the cinematography was pretty brilliant. You can see the dark forest in Oregon Oregon, Washington, it's raining, and how the different shots have been used to capture how they live, the city life. But it's quite evident. I live in the US, so I can tell you it's somewhere you can relate to that. This place gets a lot of rain. So the combination of that rainy area along with the blue dark background which you see in Ozark is quite evident in this movie. So it definitely, the coloring, the lighting evokes a lot of emotions, sadness. There's that appeal to it, and I think that's what mesmerizes you, that this is a dark, dingy area life that how are these people going to survive? So it kind of complements the overall story that's been directed and how this wants to unfold. When you talk about the pace of the movie does pace very well. This is not too slow, this is not too fast movie. It is just like the lifestyle you would expect, someone living in the woods, that it one after one the layer of will open, just like you open an onion, and that's how the movie should be. I think you would enjoy this movie well if it flowed exactly the way it has in the movie. If it was too fast, you would not enjoy it. So I think that was good here. As far as the production design is concerned, guys, definitely this is a very realistic set. It's in the middle of nowhere in the woods in Oregon. They made this small camp site, so different aspects, whether it's cooking, whether it's playing, whether it is hiding, whether it's sleeping. It's done very well. It definitely shows you that, yes, this is how someone should actually live. It's believable at the end of the day. When it comes to the editing of Leave No Trace, I would say it's a very clean shot of editing. The sequence flows very well. The transitions are great. You don't get bogged down into one scene for too long. So at one point, it's focused on clothes when it's, when they're showing their emotions. Sometimes it's out in the area. They're walking on the road. So overall, there's not fluff in the story, I would say. It's to the point at 1 hour 49. So I thought the editing was done pretty well. It fits well with the story. Whether it was the social service office, there is light there. Compared to Ozark, everything is dark blue ground. But here, the color lighting changes. So I think the editing and cinematography have kind of made sense to the audience. Overall, the editing is good. Different elements kind of flow well. I believe there is some sound also, but it's kind of serene and calm kind of music, so that's good. Let's talk about the dialogues of this movie, guys. The daughter and the father, they separate, but when Will questions to Tom and says that, hey, we gotta go, there is an instant reply that comes from Tom, and this dialogue is, the same thing that's wrong with you isn't wrong with me. And I think that's the very important dialogue of the script. Because here you're seeing two individuals that are living in the woods. Initially, from the beginning of the story, you kind of assimilate, or you start believing that even Tom, the daughter, wants this lifestyle. But it's only when at the end of the story is when then the daughter says that, hey, if you want to live out in the woods, doesn't mean that I want to do the same thing. When I heard that dialogue, I felt like, wow, this is something out of the blue, and this can only come from a smart, intelligent girl like Tom, who thinks that she wants to build her life. She's not ambitious, but she's also is not afraid to speak up her mind. She questions the status quo. So that was good. She also says, I know you would stay if you could. So at the end, when Will forces Tom to leave the trailer where he was getting treatment for his foot, the daughter tells him that I know you would stay here. But Will suffers from PTSD, and he just wants solitude. He wants to go away and spend time on his own. And especially, guys, the last scene was very touchy to me, and I'm almost at the conclusion of this story, is that in the end you can see that Will is walking separately after he departs from his daughter. He's walking on the road, and then all of a sudden he takes a detour and goes into the forest. I thought that scene was from the top was taken and was brilliant. If they had done this while he was walking, looking at me in this angle, impact would be less. But just when you see it from a 500 feet view, that this guy has now gone into the woods, what's going to happen in this woods? How is he going to survive? It's a great story, guys. I think you can watch this movie with your family. It's a one-time watch. It's simple, yet it is thought-provoking. And Leave No Trace, in the movie, it's talking about let's not leave a trace there, but I feel that it does leave a trace on the mind of the audience, especially when I was watching this movie, and you start to appreciate the characters, whether it's in real or real life. I would say that, my rating on this movie will be 8 out of 10. I wish that you guys could watch it. And that's all from me, guys. This is Sidharth Kumar signing off. If you have any comments, you can write it below and you can subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.